This program is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Hello and welcome to Business Daily on Trust Television, where we'll bring you all the updates in the world of business, finance and policies that relate to the world of economy. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in. The year 2022 has been an exceptional year, especially for the Nigerian economy and the global economy at large. And we'll be chronicling major policies that we have seen come in the year 2022. We kickstart, of course, with the monetary policy angle of the Nigerian government. We'll be looking at the issues that have come out from NPC meetings in the year 2022 and key policy decisions that we have seen the NPC in Nigeria enacted. I will be joined by the Director Monetary Policy Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Hassan Mahmood. He will be joining me to speak to some of these issues and also look at probably what will be the outlook for the new year for the monetary policy. What should Nigerians expect? What should those that monitor the economy expect? So it promises to be a packed program. Central bankers across the world stayed on the path of tightening for the year 2022. And this is as a result of looking at reining in inflation. For so many people, inflation was the game changer for the year 2022. So Dr. Hassan Mahmood will be joining me and he will be speaking to some of these decisions we have seen happen in the year 2022 and what to expect probably from the monetary policy and the CBN as we enter into the new year. Don't forget, you can always get all the updates you need from us on Business Daily, where money matters matter. I'll take a short break. When I return, we'll get straight into the conversation. Please stay with us.
That's great.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
Welcome back, and thank you for still staying there with us on the program. Like I mentioned before we went on that short break, our focus today will be on monetary policies and some of the decisions we saw coming from the MPC in the year 2022. I'm being joined by Dr. Hassan Mahmood, the Director of Monetary Policy Department of the Central Bank of Nigeria. He's joining us virtually. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Yeah, good morning, and nice to be here.
Doctor, I want you to begin with appraising the monetary policy journey that we have seen in the year 2022. It's best to hear from the horse's mouth. So I want to hear your thoughts, basically. Appraise the journey so far.
I will start by saying the journey was not a pleasant one. The monetary policy journey in the last 12 months, let me say, has been quite turbulent. And this is not unique to Nigeria, it's unique to the entire world. The scene, with the monetary policy stance scene, was besieged by some three key major global developments. One was the heightened inflation all over the world. Two was the Russian-Ukraine war that came in. And one more specific, Nigeria, was around oil prices and development around the oil export. So you see, then you have other issues like silent a bit about COVID, because COVID was more severe in 2020, 2021, but we still have some lingering effect of that, which is feeding into those lockdowns, and all the policy responses to COVID led to the crisis we saw in 2021 and 2022, including this pickup in energy prices, the disruption in global trade, the supply chain to inflation building up all over the world. And that will mean that monetary policy will need to work towards fighting inflation, curtailing capital flow reversals, ensuring there's a sustainable growth in terms of GDP growth and employment, and stability around the exchange rate. The responses to these major key mandates of the central bank were really troubled by these major global developments. Domestically, we also had issues around inflation. Inflation in Nigeria has been going on month on month for over close to 2 years now. Oil prices going down, oil revenue inflows going down, government earnings going down significantly, coupled with the fact that we're still paying subsidy on those lean revenue, debt build up in the domestic economy, job losses following the COVID-19 have not been regained, climate supply and production that is also feeding into prices. So you see, a lot of things, the crisis in the capital market, the long end of the market, asset price crash. The market is still bearish. Both capital market capitalization, all share index are going down. We see what you call Producers Managers Index is also below the threshold, which is a 50 index point. Sentiments around the performance of the economy was also low, given all this development. So you see a lot of what we call headwinds that are really impacting on the economy, and the central bank or monetary authority need to play within this space. The journey for the monetary authority is, one, to tame the inflation, they needed to tighten. So in the last period that I've mentioned, the central bank has tightened 4 times, almost 550 basis points. And we're doing 16.5 MPR, monetary policy rate now. This is in the face of an inflation rate that is still above 20%. Though May, June, July, August, we saw inflation numbers month on month going up to close to 100 basis points. Since we've started tightening, we've seen that coming on month to 30 basis point, less than 20 to 30 basis point at that rate, including the last one that we just that moved the inflation number to 21.34. We had 21.09, and so you see the movement has been month on month gradual. But that tightening is also coming in the face of tightening that the monetary authority is also doing in the banking system. So heightening the monetary policy rate and also increasing the capital cash reserve requirement, the CRR. So those two tightenings were built on the fact that, yes, the inflation number, the inflationary trend also has a kind of monetary phenomenon in it, because there was this excess demand that came following the interventions and the stimulus packages that were done globally and are also done domestically. Don't forget that central bank did intervention, the fiscal authority did it.
Dr.
Affected
Mahmood,
money supply, monetary policy.
Doctor, this is really a whole journey that you have chronicled for us on the program. And like you have said, the journey was not so pleasant for the monetary authorities. I know we saw the tightening started at about in May, when inflation started becoming a little bit out of control. Now, Doctor, I want you to respond to, there have been postulations that taming inflation has become so difficult, or inflation has become so stubborn, because we see that the monetary authorities have been aggressive trying to rein in inflation through its tightening stance. It was just the last meeting for the year. We saw the governor said, okay, we are treading the path of moderation now, but it is still important to bring inflation down. Did the tightening really achieve the results?
Many factors. What's important in terms of addressing inflation is to first identify what are the factors driving the inflation. Diverse views around what are the key factors driving inflation among the general public. From the side of the central bank, we're focused and we're certain to identify the drivers of inflation. One, we know there are legacy structural issues which affect supply side into the inflation. Inflation is the prices are determined by demand and supply. So you look at the demand side, what is the demand pull inflation, what are the supply push inflation factor. From the supply side, we see issues around structural phenomena, structural factors, which include things that are more or less long-term, things that are more or less fundamental for supply chain, smoothing. Issues around roads, security, infrastructure, power, all those are structural issues that are affecting the supply side. Because, power shortages apply manufacturing production, bad roads and security challenges affect food production, agriculture, and all that. Those are structural issues. You now come to the demand side. When there's, the GDP numbers are very low, unemployment is high, so you see people don't have the resources to buy things, and that subdues demand in that space. The people that supply cannot be able to clear their inventories. You see that bringing down prices. But when the opposite happens, when there are funds and there are injections in the economy and that demands build up above the supply that is the economy is able to absorb, or the productivity of the economy, you see that pulling the demand up. We had witnessed that too because of those injections that I mentioned. So the central bank focus was, how do we tame or moderate this demand side, because that is where central bank tools work anyway. The supply side are more of physical and governance issues that will push that up. So on the demand side, how do we tame this demand and also ensure that we push the supply side to meet up with this demand to have an equilibrium price that is stable? And that involves the tightening that we did, because we felt there was what we call the pent-up demand, built-up demand, because supply could not meet up. Everybody's, you see the prices going up. If you moderate that demand side, then you start seeing you meeting up with the supply that the economy can absorb. So the measures we did for tightening were largely to address those demand side. The supply side issues are things we did around intervention, agricultural and co-borrowers, targeted credit facilities, things to the power sector, things to also help in terms of security issues. So both sides were also playing at. The effect of this demand management is already showing, and that's what I said. Month on month, in the last 3 months, you will see that inflation numbers growth is still high and it's still growing, but the rate of growth is slowing.
Lower pace.
which is yes. So hopefully, monetary policy also has a lag. You expect 6 to 8 months before you start seeing significant impact of the policies that you take, because
Doctor, I also want you to respond to some of the policies, especially as it relates to building a budding cashless economy in Nigeria, and that we saw the CBN governor announcing the memo that came out, especially as it relates to the cash withdrawal limits. We have this except of Nigerians reacting to that policy. Let's take a listen, then we'll come back to just have your response.
Policy entails. Youth population in Makurdi share the views of many Nigerians across the nation.
The policy is going to be of more harm to the low or poor masses in the society. If there is a way they can do this, that they won't be able to use the percentage, like there's no need of removing percentage from money. If I plan to withdraw more than 20,000, it wouldn't affect me. I think it would be actually nice.
Not good for the society. Because especially now, come to think of it, why would they say the least you can withdraw in a POS is 20,000 naira? If you should withdraw more than that, there will be deduction of 5 to 10%. That is absolutely wrong.
They made a case for people who live in hinterlands and do not have access to banks and the internet for transactions. This segment of the youth felt the CBN may not have noticed the majority of Nigerians are still not conversant with ICT and yet transacting hundreds of thousands on a daily basis.
It doesn't favor the common man at all, and I want to rephrase my statement. This is the highest level of maltreatment and frustration to the common man.
It has its disadvantage as in a case of urgency, there won't be enough or sufficient money in availability, and coming to the grassroots, which is the normal poor, the mass, the poor people. If you have an urgent need to attend to, and the only amount you can withdraw a day in your ATM or post of sale is 20,000.
They appreciate the intervention of the National Assembly and called on the CBN not to add to the woes of the masses of this country.
But I see the policy is too stringent to the citizens. But there should be a kind of levity, a kind of a soft ground that the government should give, especially the less privileged. People that are less privileged, that open accounts, does not have much money in their account, and then if they are going to withdraw in case of maybe they have an emergency.
Nigerians from Benue State there speaking to the cash withdrawal limit that we saw coming from the Central Bank of Nigeria, and also these issues are to promote cashless policy in Nigeria to ensure that more Nigerians use other forms of doing transactions as opposed to having just raw cash. I still have Dr. Hassan Mahmood with me, the Director, Monetary Policy Department at the Central Bank of Nigeria. Doctor, what kind of reassurance do you want to give to these Nigerians that have spoken at this time, especially as it regards the cash withdrawal limits?
Thank you very much. I think it's important to emphasize that we're really, really concerned about how Nigerians feel. We don't want monetary policy to be inimical to the monetary policy be positively impactful on Nigerians, because monetary policy is for Nigerians. So we're concerned. We take records of all these issues that come up, but we also try to make a lot of sensitization so that people will understand where central bank is coming from and why central bank is doing what it's doing. One important thing I must emphasize is, you see, we talk of the poor people. It's very difficult to define the poor in this context. You see poor in terms of access to finance or literacy, or poor in terms of income level, because a lot of the people we talk about being poor, graduates that don't have jobs and need to do some things. If you go to the trader sites, those that do, kind of petty trading, SMEs, or just market traders and stuff like that, a lot of these have agent banking units around them. A lot of these people have phones. And we have created so much, the payment system of Nigeria, so much evolved that you can do a lot of transactions using your phone, and you don't need a smartphone to do those things. You don't need internet to do those things. You can transfer money with what you call the USS code.
Yeah.
Banks will tell you, dial star, this hash, put the money you want, you send it. We use it to buy credit on our phone. We use it to send money to people. People that sell things in the market, many of them have bank accounts. You can always transfer. So what we're saying is that there's a lot of investment that are going into this cashless policy. We know the dangers of cash. Apart from the security issues that are around cash, the central bank also incur a lot of cost in terms of managing cash, including managing liquidity. Apart from managing the currency itself, you also manage. I spoke about factors that are driving inflation, and one of them was excess liquidity in the system. Those excess liquidity, for us to mop it up, we pay money to banks to hold to some certain instruments and pull off the money from the bank accounts, or from the bank deposit vault, and bring them to the central bank vault to sterilize it from the economy.
Okay.
Those monies that we pay for
if
them are supposed to be revenue that will go to the government.
Doctor,
so if we can curtail
the time is very fast against us. But I'm glad that you have stated that the CBN is taking what Nigerians have said into cognizance. So thank you so much, Dr. Hassan Mahmood, Director, Monetary Policy Department. He joined us virtually today from the United Kingdom. Thank you for your time today, Doctor.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's where we call it a wrap for the program today. Thank you for investing your time with us on the program. Don't forget, you can catch up on all you need to know on our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Go to YouTube and punch on the subscribe button. I am Christiana Amodu Otinya. Thank you for joining in, and continue to stay safe.
This program is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.